Madison likes to pass laws to solve problems, so I have a suggestion. There ought to be a law that says if you have a mayoral debate in Madison, it cannot run longer than 2 hours.
Oh, I like that law.
Last night's debate, we're recording today's podcast on, what day is it today?
It's Wednesday morning, Scott.
It's Wednesday morning. We both watched the second mayoral debate last night. 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, yeah.
At the Central Library. I'm glad I wasn't sitting there. I'm glad I was at home and I could have pizza and a beer while I was watching it.
Yes. That made it much more palatable.
Yeah. If I had to describe the debate in one word...
Long?
Yes. You read my mind. That was a long debate. Now, God bless the many sponsors who organized the debate.
It would have been easier to name who wasn't sponsoring the event.
Yeah. You know, what we should do is, I'll say them all, and then maybe I can figure out how to go back and with the software, you know how you speed it up?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're a drug company and you want to say all the side effects and the ways it can kill you at the end of the ad, you speed that part up so it's... We'll try that.
Okay, sounds good.
So today on Center Stage, we're going to talk about the second mayoral debate. Who won? What were the big moments? What do we think of each candidate? I'm Scott Milfred, the editorial page editor for the Wisconsin State Journal.
And I'm Phil Hands. I'm the editorial cartoonist for the Wisconsin State Journal.
And we are half of the State Journal editorial board.
The better-looking half.
Here's the list of debate sponsors really quickly now. Our Wisconsin Revolution, Dane County, the American Civil Liberties Union, the Affordable Housing Action Alliance, Capital Region Advocacy Network for Environmental Sustainability, Family Farm Defenders, the First Unitarian Society Social Justice Ministry, Indivisible Madison, the Peregrine Forum, Madison Area Bus Advocates, Madison Bikes, 350 Madison Climate Action Team. Whew, that's a mouthful.
So there are 6 candidates running for mayor in this primary February 19th.
Sort of
6 candidates. There are 6 candidates who are at these forums and these debates. There's Paul Soglin, who is the current mayor, serial mayor of Madison, and he's back in the race after he dropped out earlier this year but decided to run again.
He's been serving for something like 22 years as mayor in stints going back like a half a century.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is
mayor for life.
He is an institution. I don't think it would be too much to say he's an icon, but he also has lost some elections, not just statewide and congressional elections when he's tried for a higher office, but Dave Chislevich did beat him.
Yep.
Back in the day.
2003, I believe.
Of course, he came back and then beat Dave Chislevich, but so there.
That's right.
Where we were 7.5 years ago, there was no Housing First program. We were stuck not being able to adopt a downtown plan. We weren't recognizing the challenges of race and equity. Look at how we have done compared to the rest of the nation. Look at the progress we've made since 8 years ago. But there is a long way to go. There are still gaps in disparity. There are still challenges that we can take on. I want to continue this job. I want to finish this job and make sure that when we claim we're a progressive city, we really are.
There also are a couple of city councilmen, Mo Cheeks.
Mo Cheeks is running, city councilman from the west side of Madison. It represents a very diverse district. It includes Allied Drive, one of the most troubled neighborhoods in Madison, and Tacoma, one of the toniest neighborhoods in Madison.
And he will tell you that 2 or 3 times every conversation. He's a technology guy, business guy, and he is also one of 2 African Americans running.
My name is Mo Cheeks, and I love this city. I love Madison. It's an awesome place to live and to raise a family, and yet we all know that that's not true for everyone. In fact, most commonly, it's not true for people that look like me. I'm running for mayor of Madison to directly take on these challenges of this persistent reputation that we've developed as a tale of 2 cities. I'm running for mayor to ensure that Madison is a more inclusive, more innovative, and more safe place for everyone who chooses to call this place home.
The other African American running is Toriana Pettaway. She is the city's equity coordinator.
My name is Toriana Pettaway. I am your next mayor for the city of Madison. And as your racial equity coordinator in the city of Madison running for mayor, one of the things that always gave me this visceral effect, every time I heard the word diversity in this community, I literally had a very negative reaction. As a woman of color in this community, that word does not sit very well with me because it does not carry what it actually means. And it's actually a paper exercise in this community. Why am I running for mayor? Because I want to get away from paper exercises. I'm running for mayor as the only candidate with the experience that can really transform this community with real transformative solutions.
Another candidate is Satya Rhodes-Conway, who was on the city council for 6 years and then left, and she's been over at a think tank at the university, a left-leaning think tank. She's kind of the point person dealing with mayors across the country.
My name is Satya Rhodes-Conway, and I'm running for mayor here in Madison because everyone should have the opportunity to thrive. And that means that we need to work on a set of critical issues: affordable housing, rapid transit, racial equity, and being prepared for the impacts of climate change, among other things.
Well, Raj Shukla is the executive director of the Wisconsin Rivers Alliance and my neighbor.
Madison, we are what we do. My name is Raj Shukla. I'm the son of immigrants who showed me every day what hard work could mean for your life, and who showed me every day what building a strong community could mean for your family and the family of the people that you love. I joined this race as a political newcomer because I feel like right now we are in a moment in history. A moment in history that asks each of us to do all we can to bring this community together and to think bigger, to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing.
And then we have Nick Hart, a comedian who's just kind of the barstool candidate running a cuz. Because he wants more people to vote.
I'm Nick Hart. I'm the comedian who's running. And it's been widely reported that because I'm a comedian that this is a joke. I take joking very seriously as a comedian. So it's municipal politics here in Madison that are the joke, and I say that because only 10 to 20% of people in Madison vote in municipal politics.
And he thought, hey, I could get some of the bar crowd to vote for me, or I can get 200 signatures.
Yeah, and he did.
Yeah, and Toriana Pettaway did not.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, she is not going to be on the ballot. Toriana Pettaway, she did not get enough signatures. That was
despite all the efforts of the municipal clerk's office to inform her of that problem.
She has sort of backed off a bit her comment that white supremacy was to blame for her not being allowed to get on the ballot. That was kind of ridiculous.
The issue was her not counting her signatures.
So what do we think of the debate?
If you know me, you know that I'm kind of a leftist center guy. Yeah. But watching these mayoral debates makes me feel like Rush Limbaugh. Because these guys are so far to the left of everything. I mean, it's refreshing to, at the state level, I'm hearing all these, crazy right-wing ideas about how to run government and stuff like that. It's nice to hear some crazy left-wing ideas from time to time. And a lot of these ideas are crazy left-wing ideas. I mean, Paul Soglin seems like the only reasonable person in the room sometimes during these debates because he's actually, done the job before, and it's not just pie-in-the-sky progressivism for him.
As you know, we have to deal with the real world. That means dealing with the state statutes, which severely tie our hands in so many areas, from sustainability and environmental challenges to the kinds of things we want to do in repealing Act 10. And of course, now that kind of level of challenge has been escalated to the federal government with what the Trump administration is doing. So the great challenges over the next 4 years is going to be working out solutions for this city, continuing on the great future that we've got, what we've built on, and try and get some accommodation, some future collaboration with the state and the federal agencies.
I think his point there was that a lot of the candidates want to talk at kind of the 40,000 foot above the ground conversation about how we create a more, utopian city that works for everyone. But Soglin often would come crashing in and say, oh, well, actually, we get most of our housing money from TIF and the feds, and we use private sector partners. So that's where you're going to get your housing money. Or he'd come in and say, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do a RTA, a Regional Transit Authority, unless we get federal money in there and state permission. And so he kind of would poo-poo some of the, maybe they're more creative or big ideas of the other candidates, just basically kind of saying, hey, if you were mayor and you knew what you're talking about, you'd know that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
We got to do it this other way. Now, some of that's just Soglin's always
right. It feels like Soglin would start every. I think Soglin wants to start every sentence with, "If you were mayor, you'd understand."
As I was driving into work today, I was trying to think about who won this debate, and I don't think there was sort of an obvious winner. I thought Soglin, who was seated right in the middle, did a nice job of displaying his knowledge and experience. And then at the end of the debate, he sort of stood up, which was kind of a dramatic moment, and said that he wanted to continue the job, and he got a little bit fired up.
And let me just make one more observation. This city is not racist. The city suffers from problems of racism, but most of the people in this city, the far majority, are good, caring people, and they want to join in and collaborate in making a difference. Thank you.
So, kind of defending his record, I guess, there. But throughout the debate, he could cite lots of things. On the other hand, if we just wanted to tick off these other people, I mean, I think Mo Cheeks is really likable.
And he's raised the most money of anybody.
Yeah. Although he's also spent a lot, such that Soglin actually had more money in his account than Cheeks did, I believe, as of the latest reporting date.
Yeah.
But, I didn't hear a lot of specifics from Mo Cheeks.
I don't think Cheeks has a lot of specifics. I think he has a lot of 40,000-foot ideas.
His big phrase was a sense of urgency. And he uses a lot of, vague or just big phrases, like bridging communities, setting the table, leveraging experiences. But he did offer a few things specifically. Like he said he wants more transparency of police data. I like that.
That sounds good to me.
Why not? Let's know what our police are doing more. We might find out they're doing things that we really like, too.
We're never going to find that out, Scott.
He talked about hard work. I think in a Madison debate, if somebody brings up hard work, that's good.
Is that a conservative value?
Well, you don't hear Madison people talk about that a lot of time. A lot of times you hear that tends to be conservatives like to talk about hard work, and liberals like to talk about the difficulties people have,
yeah,
and how they need help. But he did talk about that. He did say he was going to put a point person in the mayor's office to look at policy through an environmental lens,
which Dave Cheslevich did back in the day.
And
it's not exactly a new idea, but
this won't sit good with us. He trumpeted his opposition to police body cameras because
of the imaginary theory that someday that ICE agents are going to troll through hours and hours of body camera footage to try and identify illegal immigrants.
Yeah, that's a theoretical argument. What's not theoretical is the very real examples of police cameras catching police doing bad things and then police are punished, or police cameras catching the public doing bad things, and then the public is punished.
Yes.
And he also said that he wanted to have a college savings account for every kid. I wasn't quite clear on he was going to do that. I don't think he wanted to use tax dollars for that. But, I mean, he had some ideas, and I thought he was, like I said, likable.
He's very likable. I like Mo.
Satya Rhodes-Conway certainly came off as knowledgeable.
She's very knowledgeable. She's not as likable, I don't think.
No, she's a little more just kind of on point. She's smart and can talk about issues in a detailed way.
She might know more about policy than Paul Soglin. I'm not sure. She seems to. I mean, that seems to be her job nowadays, is to understanding urban policy and how cities are managed and things like that. So she's very knowledgeable when it comes to that.
And she proudly calls herself a wonk. The likability meter, I don't think it's real high for Soglin either.
I think Satya's definitely more likable than Soglin. Soglin's at the bottom of the likability chart.
She seemed like the more the biggest of the big government candidates. There was always something government should be doing, and there was a hint of, maybe more than a hint of dislike when she talked about developers profiting, and when she kind of just, on the conversation of flooding, just sort of dismissed lakefront property owners. As if, well, they're rich, they're not the people I care about.
Yeah.
My progressive Dane meter was peaking while
tinkling?
she was talking, but I did like her. Boy, I really like how she's on this BART issue, bus rapid transit.
Yeah.
She seems really attuned to that, and I like that. I think we're overdue for faster, more efficient buses.
Absolutely.
Another big moment I liked in this debate, but it just was way too brief, and Soglin ignored her, was where she made a reference to Chicago's version of Trump.
Honestly, the things that's most on my mind right now is the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've given to Chicago's version of Trump for Judge Doyle Square, and the just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision that's been made about that site that's wasted millions of dollars for the city. And we'll see if it can be fixed, but that's the thing that I think needs the most fixing.
She was referring to the Judge Doyle Square project, claiming that millions of dollars would be wasted. I don't think that's true. But Soglin, that was kind of in her closing comments, and Soglin ignored it.
Completely ignored it.
But if she were to become, let's say she wins the primary and Soglin does, and they're the last two, I think that's an issue then to delve down into, because she sounds like she is against that project, even though, that did just get a unanimous vote to try to patch that up.
Well, I'm in terms of that Judge Doyle Square project, I'm wondering if there's anything that she could do to sort of slow it down, since the agreement the vote they just went through, kind of pushes the Beitler, the Trump's version of Chicago, or Chicago's version of Trump, pushes them to develop the hotel property faster.
Yeah.
And then finds a new developer for the other half. So I'm wondering if there's anything that she could even do to gum that up.
Probably not, but I think what she's doing is laying out a contrast with Soglin.
Yes.
Let's talk about Raj. I thought Raj was the sunniest.
He is
of
so
candidates.
sunny. He is all hope and changey, isn't he?
But we have some very tough decisions ahead of us. Housing is not as affordable as it needs to be. Our transit system is broken for too many people in our community, and racial and social divisions continue to fracture this community. But we are what we do, and we can make a sustainable, equitable, vibrant community for everyone if we commit to working together.
There is a little bit of an Obama-esque optimism there that is contagious. I think his problem is nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Raj talks about that nobody else talks about, which is really, which should separate him but doesn't, I don't think, is focusing on early child education. That is one of his talking points that he's always mentioning is focusing on providing educational and opportunities for young kids before the age of 3, where you can really make changes in people's lives.
He's dreaming big about the city, and I think that's good. He also mentioned hard work, by the way, so I got to give him credit for that. He also was on this, we got to modernize our zoning code. I thought we already just redid
we spent like
zoning code.
12 years modernizing our zoning code.
If we do that again, it'll be 2030.
I think it was a Cheslevich thing, was modernizing the zoning code, and then it kind of went into Soglin's administration.
All right, so maybe it has been.
And now that it's finalized, every time they try and follow the code, the neighborhoods fight that, wait a minute, this isn't, along Monroe Street, all those 4-story buildings that go up along Monroe Street, the neighborhood gets it up in a tizzy, because even though that's what the zoning code calls for.
The other good point I thought he made, he talked about how with the River Alliance he's worked with a lot of rural areas. That makes sense because rivers are in rural areas.
Really?
There are a lot of them, yeah. I think he would be somebody, even though he uses, he talks about growing equitably and uses a lot of the lefty buzzwords too.
He's actually spent some time outside of the Madison bubble.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to collaborations, my guess is he could, that sunny personality of his could pull some people together.
2 more candidates to talk about.
Yeah, Nick Hart didn't have a lot to say in this debate.
He doesn't have a lot to say, and when he does say stuff, what's funny is sometimes he's good to just
break it up,
bit. And be a little court gestury.
And there was one moment there, which was the one moment I thought he was fairly funny, was where they were talking about bike paths, and he brought up an issue nobody else had. What about unicycles?
I think we continue to cultivate a robust and support culture for bicyclists, with the exception of unicyclists. And you guys are laughing. It's coming.
Doesn't your daughter ride her unicycle?
She did.
Yeah.
She did. They teach it in school now.
Rights for unicyclists.
In Madison.
This debate went on for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, so...
Does he need to be part of this?
No, not really.
And sometimes he says stuff which I think is actually really dangerous that gets cheers. Like he's got a big thing about how he wants the police department to act like the fire department and only show up when they're called someplace. Which, I mean, quite honestly, if you talk to most police departments, most of the time they interact with the public, it is because there's a police call.
Yeah.
So that's really all how they're operating already. But also, when you do community policing, you can't do that if you're just sitting in your police station waiting for calls all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when he says this, people cheer and they're like, "Yeah, get those police off the streets." But we don't want that.
We don't want that. No, I don't think communities would want that either. My neighborhood wouldn't want it on the east side. They like it because of the cops. Otherwise, the high school kids speed down the road.
That cops who were on State Street, they know everybody who hangs out on State Street.
Yeah.
And they deflect conflict before it ever starts. They can't do that if they're sitting there in their station waiting for a call.
Yeah, totally dismisses community policing, which I thought was a holy grail here in Madison.
Yeah.
But I did like his sort of Blues Brother-esque sweatshirt. I mean, he's kind of like, you have a mayoral debate and you go into a bar and pull a random guy off a bar stool and set him up with the candidates. It's not the worst thing. And he was brief. Toriana Pettaway, wasn't asked about and didn't address this whole issue with the signatures.
She's just one buzzword after another. It's like she's got a little glossary of liberal buzzwords and can throw them all together in sentences, but I don't know what she's talking about half the time.
She brought up exclusionary zoning, which died on the vine under Chislevich, so I don't think that's coming back. That's sort of big government rules on developers. I did like a couple things she said. She was the only one. She talked about getting clergy and corporate sponsors more involved in things, in solving problems in Madison.
Religions can't solve any problems, Scott. Religion is the root of all problems, right?
And corporations.
And
but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Somebody like Satya Rhodes-Conway would probably cringe at the idea, either one of those ideas. But I think that's an underutilized
resource in Madison.
A couple times she said things that normally you wouldn't hear from a cookie-cutter white Madison candidate. She also said 99% of police are decent men and women, but bias is real. Apparently she does a training session with
the police officers
on bias, but I don't think we have a white supremacy problem in Madison, much less in the city clerk's office.
No.
I guess if I had to say who won, I'd probably say Soglin won, not because his performance was all that great, but I didn't feel like anybody else sort of took over the debate or won it, and I feel like he's the establishment guy who should probably win, and he just could tick off, anytime an issue came up, he could tick off 5 things the city's done.
Soglin sort of represents what I'd call the silent majority, and I don't mean that by conservative people. I mean that by people who are not super left and people who are super right. Because he was talking about policing in Madison.
Yeah.
The people who show up for these city council meetings about the police are the super righties of the world who think the police can do no wrong ever.
Right.
Or the super lefties who think the police are tasked with, killing people that don't look like them. And the majority of people in Madison have a different perspective from those two people.
Yeah.
And I think Soglin kind of speaks for that majority of people in Madison. And that's not I think that's a left of center viewpoint.
He also is just willing to gruffly stick his head out. So he's like, the lake levels need to come down.
Yeah.
Now, to her credit, Satya Rhodes-Conway also said that. But Soglin also, he also said, like, we need more on the issue of hunger. He's like, we need more community gardens. And he basically said, too bad, these people that think it looks unsightly.
Yeah.
Tough. We're going to have more. So he can come in and just, boom.
Yeah.
And be decisive and say this is what he's going to do. And I think that's what, even if you don't like him, he's not all that likable, He's decisive.
The one knock on Soglin is that he has been around for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And like 8 years ago, we knew there was a housing issue in Madison. We knew that housing was getting expensive. We knew that we needed more units built. And it hasn't gotten, I mean, we haven't done things to make it much easier to build lots of units of housing in the city of Madison in the last 8 years.
Yeah, and as you alluded to earlier, a lot of these other candidates have money. So they are going to have flyers at people's doors. They're going to maybe have a staffer and some volunteers out knocking on doors and really pushing them. So he could be in much more of a fight here than he thinks.
I've seen a lot of signs for Raj Shukla out.
Yeah.
I have not seen any signs for Paul Soglin.
And there again, I think Raj could compete, but people would need to know who he is. Like, unlike Mo Cheeks or Satya Rhodes-Conway, they've been in City Hall. They've been in news stories. They've been on the television with city issues. Raj hasn't.
Yeah.
He's kind of skipping over all that and just saying, I'm going to run for mayor. So I think that's harder for him. But if he raises a bunch of money and he gets a lot of volunteers to dump, flyers everywhere and get his name out, sure, he could move up. I think him and Mo Cheeks especially have that sort of personality where you meet them and you like them immediately. Yeah, Mo's thing that he just had on Facebook where he's walking through the neighborhood talking, very likable and engaging.
Yeah.
Didn't say a whole lot on issues, but you like him.
Soglin might be less likable in person than he is on television.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention here, though, because I went back 4 years ago. There was a primary, and we all know that Scott Resnick survived it with Paul Soglin. Soglin won just over half of the primary votes, almost 12,000 votes. He got 53%. Scott Resnick, who was on the city council, young guy, his name was out there a lot.
He sort of embodied the tech sector.
On his side, he got 23%. My point is, the field wasn't markedly different than now. I would say there are 3 potential people here who could survive the primary besides Soglin. Mm-hmm. And it's Cheeks, Satya Rhodes-Conway, and Raj Shukla.
Yeah. And if Nick Hart survives the primary, we're all in trouble.
Special thanks to Madison City Channel for recording the debate. If you'd like to listen to the whole thing, go to go.madison.com/debate. All of the music on our podcast is by Madison's power pop sensation, Tube Tester.